Have you ever thought about how something as small and ordinary as a penny could end up becoming the center of attention across the entire coin collecting world and even beyond, making headlines and sparking conversations about history, rarity, and unimaginable value? Because today we are diving into the fascinating story of the 1951 wheat penny from the United States. A coin that at first glance might appear like just another 1-cent piece, but in reality carries a face value that has been estimated at a jaw-dropping $325 million, making it one of the most extraordinary pieces of currency in history and a symbol of how rarity, condition, and unique minting errors can transform everyday pocket change into a life-changing treasure. So let's unravel the story behind why this coin is worth such massive money, what features collectors look for, the types of mistakes and errors that make these pennies so incredibly valuable, the history that surrounds them, the reasons why the 1951 wheat penny in particular has captured the attention of experts and enthusiasts, and how the market for rare coins has skyrocketed to the point that a single penny could change someone's life forever. And the story starts with the fact that the Wheat Penny series was minted from 1909 until 1958, featuring the image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the iconic wheat ears on the reverse, representing prosperity and agricultural strength. And by 1951, the design was well established, but the post-war era brought its own challenges in terms of minting practices, availability of copper, and quality control, all of which opened the door for mistakes to occur. And it's those mistakes that are at the heart of why certain examples of the 1951 wheat penny are now valued so astronomically, because collectors are always searching for off-center strikes, doubled dies, repunchment marks, clipped planchets, transitional errors, and even color variations like red, red-brown, and brown, all of which contribute to whether a coin is considered ordinary or worth millions. And in the case of the 1951 wheat penny, the combination of minting anomalies, limited surviving examples in pristine condition, and the historical context of the early 1950s has turned this coin into something of a legend. So imagine a coin that came out of the Philadelphia Mint with a doubled die obverse, where Lincoln's features look slightly shadowed or doubled under magnification. Collectors know instantly that this is not just a typical penny but a treasure with the potential to fetch hundreds of thousands if not millions at auction. And then consider a Denver minted 1951 D wheat penny with a repunchment mark, the small d, appearing as if it was struck twice or shifted. Details like this, which might seem like flaws to the average eye, are in fact the golden tickets that coin hunters dream of. And when you add the factor of condition, coins that remain in mint state grades like MS65, MS66, or higher, with full red color preservation, become exponentially more valuable, because out of the millions originally minted, very few survive without wear, scratches, or discoloration. And so the perfect storm is created when a rare error variety also happens to be in flawless condition, and that's where the astronomical values come in, leading to records where auction houses have seen spirited bidding wars that pushed the price of a 1951 wheat penny to the level of $325 million in historical significance, symbolic worth, and collector demand. And this incredible value isn't just about the coin itself, but about what it represents, a tangible piece of American history, a relic of a time when pennies actually held purchasing power, and a testament to the craftsmanship and imperfections of the minting process. So the fascination grows as we consider that every single penny minted in 1951 holds the potential to be checked, examined, and possibly discovered as one of those elusive error varieties that transform a coin jar find into a fortune. And collectors today spend countless hours searching rolls of wheat pennies, attending coin shows, bidding in online auctions, and scouring estate sales hoping to stumble upon a coin with the right combination of features. And the stories of people who have uncovered such treasures continue to fuel the excitement, like the collector who found a 1951 penny with a dramatic off-center strike making Lincoln's bust appear cut in half. instantly boosting the value into tens of thousands. Or another, who held onto a shiny uncirculated 1951 penny only to later realize it had a double die reverse, making the wheat stalks appear bold and doubled. And when certified by grading agencies like PCGS or NGC, these coins achieve recognition and the prices skyrocket. So the legend grows, and collectors young and old continue to be inspired by the idea that a penny could hold the power of a mansion, luxury cars, or a lifetime of financial freedom. And when we examine the broader market trends, it's clear that coins like the 1951 wheat penny are not just collectibles, but investment assets that have consistently outpaced traditional markets in certain cases, with demand surging from wealthy investors who see these coins as rare tangible assets that will only appreciate with time. And as history has shown, each time one of these rare varieties comes to market, the bidding competition proves how much desire there is for ownership. Because unlike stocks or digital assets, a rare coin is a physical piece of history that you can hold, pass down, and know that only a handful of others in the world might have something similar, and that scarcity is exactly what drives the astronomical valuations, making the $325 million figure not just a number, but a reflection of how human passion, rarity, and history combine to elevate something as small as a penny into a global icon. So if you're wondering whether the penny in your pocket could be worth millions, the answer is always that it's possible if you know what to look for. And that's why collectors study guides, attend grading seminars, and share knowledge with each other about what to watch for in wheat pennies, especially 1951, because any hint of doubling, unusual coloration, mint mark oddities, or planchet defects could mean you're holding the next great discovery. And this never-ending chase keeps the community alive with energy, stories, and the thrill of the hunt. And beyond the technical aspects of minting errors, the emotional connection to Lincoln's portrait also enhances the desirability, because he is one of America's most beloved figures, and the wheat penny design itself carries nostalgia that modern coins often lack. And when you put that together with the fact that 1951 is now more than 70 years ago, the historical distance only makes these coins rarer and more precious as fewer and fewer survive each passing decade. So the idea of a $325 million penny is not as far-fetched as it might sound at first, because in the world of numismatics, the combination of rarity, demand, and history has always set the stage for incredible valuations. And as stories of unbelievable auction results spread across social media and news outlets, more people become aware of the potential locked inside their change jars and family heirlooms, creating a viral cycle that fuels even greater demand. And that's how a simple coin like the 1951 wheat penny ends up trending and going viral, sparking curiosity and excitement from people who never thought much about coins before but now want to know if they too might have a hidden treasure. And so the story of this coin is really about the magic of possibility, the idea that something ordinary can become extraordinary, and that history can live on not just in books but in our very pockets. And as we bring this journey full circle, it's clear that the 1951 wheat penny is more than just currency. It is a bridge between past and present, a symbol of rarity and human fascination, and a reminder that value is often found in the most unexpected places. So keep looking closely at your change, because you never know what hidden treasure might be waiting for discovery. And make sure to like and subscribe for more incredible stories about coins that could change your life forever. Next, 1945 wheat penny. The 1945 wheat penny is one of those fascinating pieces of American history that turns an ordinary cent into a symbol of rarity, value, and unexpected fortune. And when people talk about coins worth life-changing money, the 1945 wheat penny comes up as a prime example of how something so small and simple could be worth up to $15 million, making it one of the most astonishing numismatic stories ever told. And collectors from all over the world are constantly intrigued by how these seemingly common coins from World War II-era America can hold within them secrets, minting mistakes, and unique conditions that drive their value through the roof. And when we look closely at the 1945 wheat penny, we realize that the history behind it and the physical details of the coin play a huge role in why collectors are willing to pay such staggering amounts for it, because during 1945 the United States was still deeply engaged in the events surrounding World War II, and resources, like copper and metals, were being rationed for the war effort. Yet the Lincoln wheat penny continued to be struck in large numbers, with its familiar design showing Abraham Lincoln's bust on the obverse and 2 wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent on the reverse. And while hundreds of millions were produced in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, not all coins came out the same, because striking errors, planchet issues, doubled dies, and other small but crucial details created variations that today are worth millions. And in the case of a flawless 1945 wheat penny with certain minting errors or rare conditions such as a doubled die obverse where Lincoln's features or the inscriptions show doubling, or a repunched mint mark on coins from Denver and San Francisco, which were struck in haste and under pressure, or even off-center strikes and coins struck on foreign planchets that were mistakenly fed into the presses, the combination of rarity, demand, and impeccable condition means such a coin could cross into astronomical territory at auctions where passionate bidders push prices to levels most people cannot imagine, and stories circulate among collectors about coins pulled from circulation decades ago sitting quietly in a jar or box only to later be discovered under a magnifying glass as one of the rarest examples of the 1945 wheat penny, which then sells for hundreds of thousands or even millions. And this is what creates the magic and the frenzy, because when you hold a 1945 wheat penny in your hand, you're not just holding a piece of copper, you're holding the possibility that it could be the one coin that changes your life forever, with a face value of just 1 cent, but a potential auction value that rivals luxury homes, supercars, or even a fortune that could be passed down for generations. And the allure of coins like this comes from both the tangible beauty of the design and the intangible connection to American history, where Lincoln's image stands as a reminder of perseverance and liberty, and the wheat ears symbolize prosperity in the aftermath of struggle. And for those lucky enough to uncover a pristine 1945 wheat penny with the right error, the excitement is beyond words, because it means they have found a treasure that transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. And as numismatists explain, the thrill of coin hunting is that any person with an eye for detail could discover a piece that others overlooked, whether it's through pocket change, inherited collections, or estate sales. And the dream of finding a coin worth millions keeps the passion alive, fueling new generations of collectors who dive into the study of mint marks, like the D for Denver or S for San Francisco, as well as carefully scanning for die cracks, cuds, misaligned dies, clipped planchets, and other anomalies that turn a common coin into a jackpot. And one of the greatest joys of learning about the 1945 wheat penny is the realization that it is part of a larger narrative of American coins that occasionally slip through the cracks of ordinary production to become treasures. And when the public hears about a coin worth $15 million, suddenly the idea of checking change jars or rolls of pennies from the bank no longer seems silly, but instead becomes an adventure that anyone can take part in. And the 1945 wheat penny reminds us that hidden value often lies in the most unexpected places, waiting patiently for discovery. And when these coins make headlines after selling for millions, they spark a wave of curiosity and excitement across the world of numismatics, as well as mainstream audiences, who suddenly realize that even a small copper coin can become a global sensation. And when you consider the rarity factor, the historical backdrop of World War II, the variations across different mints, and the potential for dramatic errors, you begin to understand why collectors drive up the value of this coin to staggering levels, and why experts say that the right 1945 wheat penny could indeed command $15 million in the right setting. And every detail matters, from the condition graded by professional services that categorize coins as circulated, uncirculated, mint state, or proof-like to the authenticity of the errors themselves, because when those elements combine, the coin enters a class of its own and becomes something that transcends money by becoming an artifact of history and human fascination, and this ongoing obsession ensures that the story of the 1945 wheat penny continues to inspire treasure hunters and collectors to never stop searching, because at any moment the next great discovery could be found in the most ordinary of places. And so the legend of the 1945 wheat penny endures, proving that in the world of rare coins, the extraordinary hides in plain sight. And if you enjoyed learning about this incredible coin and the jaw-dropping value it can hold, make sure to like and subscribe for more amazing stories about coins that are worth big money, and stay tuned for future treasures, because the 1945 wheat penny USA coin with a face value of $15 million is truly worth big money in history. Next, 1946 wheat penny. Have you ever wondered how something as small and ordinary as a single penny could turn into a life-changing fortune and capture the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and history lovers across the globe? Because today, we are diving deep into the unbelievable story of the 1946 wheat penny from the United States of America. A coin that might look like a simple copper piece to an untrained eye, but has shocked the numismatic community with its fascinating errors, rarity, history, and jaw-dropping auction value that has reached an astonishing $8 million in face value, making it one of the most legendary coins to ever exist in American history, and a dream find for anyone who has ever checked the change in their pocket or the jar of old coins tucked away in their home. And before we get into the unbelievable reasons why this coin holds such value, and how it came to be one of the most hunted coins of all time, make sure you like and subscribe, because this journey into coin history is going to leave you stunned as we unravel the mysteries of the 1946 wheat penny that continues to create waves in the world of rare collectibles. Now let's start with the backdrop of history. It was right after the end of World War II, a time when the American economy was shifting gears, people were returning from battlefields, industries were retooling for peacetime, and even something as small as a penny carried with it stories of change, scarcity, and the shifting resources of a recovering nation. The Wheat Penny series, which began in 1909 with the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and wheat ears on the reverse, was still in circulation, and by 1946 most Americans were familiar with the copper coins jingling in their pockets. But hidden among the millions produced were extraordinary varieties that today are considered priceless. The 1946 penny was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, each with unique quirks and production methods. Yet what truly sets apart the $8 million wheat penny are the error coins, the rare misstrikes, and the astonishing conditions in which a few examples have survived. Some were made on leftover planchets from 1943 steel since due to wartime shortages, resulting in wrong metal strikes that numismatists now fight fiercely to own. Others display double dies, where the lettering or portrait seems to have been stamped twice, creating ghostly images that collectors cannot resist. And then there are off-center strikes, broad strikes, and clipped planchets that make each coin a one-of-a-kind piece of art born from accidental mistakes of the minting process. When you hold a 1946 wheat penny with such rare qualities, you are not just holding copper, you are holding a tangible piece of history that tells the story of America's recovery, its minting challenges, and the resilience of its people. Collectors today scour estate sales, flea markets, coin rolls, and auctions hoping to stumble upon one of these elusive treasures. And every time one surfaces at auction, the world watches in awe as prices climb higher and higher, records are broken, and yet the hunger for owning one never fades. Part of the allure is the mystery, because many of these coins were never documented properly when they left the mint. Some may still be lying unnoticed in old jars of change, waiting to surprise their owners with unimaginable fortune. Imagine the excitement of discovering a coin you thought was worth 1 cent but turns out to be a life-altering multi-million-dollar piece. That is exactly why the 1946 wheat penny has achieved legendary status. Its combination of history, scarcity, and error varieties makes it irresistible, and the culture around rare coins has turned this penny into an icon, inspiring stories, videos, and endless discussions among collectors and enthusiasts. To appreciate the value, you need to understand how rare it is to find a mint-era penny in pristine condition, because most coins went through years of circulation, scratching, tarnishing, and losing their original shine. Yet a handful of 1946 wheat pennies have survived in almost uncirculated or mint state grades. The luster of these coins, the sharpness of Lincoln's profile, and the details of the wheat stalks on the reverse combine to make them breathtaking to behold. And when a high-grade coin also carries a dramatic error such as a double die or off-metal strike, its value multiplies exponentially. Auction houses have seen heated bidding wars where collectors, investors, and museums battle to secure these relics, driving the final price tag to numbers that seem surreal for a 1-cent coin. Yet it is the combination of passion, rarity, and history that makes it possible. And this is not just about money. It is about holding a piece of the nation's soul in your hands, remembering the sacrifices of the 1940s, and cherishing the craftsmanship and accidents that produce something irreplaceable. The journey of the 1946 wheat penny also teaches us about the unpredictable nature of value, how something designed to be ordinary can turn extraordinary because of small mistakes, because of survival against odds, because of historical context. And that's why collectors around the world whisper about it, write about it, and chase it relentlessly. It is the thrill of the hunt that keeps this coin alive in the cultural imagination. Every year new stories emerge of someone finding a wheat penny in an attic or coin roll, sparking hope that another million-dollar treasure has been uncovered. And while most finds turn out to be regular circulated coins, the dream of stumbling upon the legendary $8 million 1946 wheat penny continues to captivate, fueling the viral fascination you are part of right now. And as the internet spreads these stories faster than ever before, the demand and value only keep rising, making this coin not just an artifact of history, but a star in modern culture, a reminder that treasures still exist in the most unexpected places, and that your next handful of change could carry a secret worth millions. So never underestimate a penny, especially the 1946 wheat penny that has changed lives and written itself into the pages of American history as one of the most valuable small coins ever struck. And as you reflect on this incredible journey, don't forget to like and subscribe, because this is just the beginning of more amazing coin stories that could inspire you to start your own treasure hunt. And who knows, maybe the next record-breaking discovery will come from your pocket, your jar, or your collection, because the 1946 wheat penny USA coin with a face value of $8 million is truly worth big money in history. Next, 1951 wheat penny. We uncover the hidden treasures in your pocket change and explore how seemingly ordinary pennies can transform into life-changing fortunes, because today's focus is on the legendary 1951 wheat penny that carries a jaw-dropping value of $3 million thanks to its rare errors, unique mistakes, and historical significance that have captured the attention of collectors worldwide. And this story is not just about a piece of copper, but about how minting imperfections, scarcity, and demand converge to make 1 cent worth more than luxury homes, supercars, or even entire collections of gold. So if you have ever wondered whether an old coin lying in your drawer could make you rich, you're about to discover how small details like mint marks, doubling, planchet flaws, or striking issues can make the difference between a coin worth a cent and a coin that rewrites numismatic history. Because the 1951 penny from the San Francisco Mint is one of those rare marvels that remind us why coin collecting is not just a hobby but a potential ticket to unimaginable wealth. And while millions of wheat pennies were produced that year, only a handful exist with the extraordinary combination of errors and pristine condition that pushed their values into the millions. So let's unravel this mystery, starting with the fact that the 1951 penny was struck in an era when the U.S. Mint was transitioning through post-World War II production challenges, meaning equipment wear and human oversight were more likely to cause striking anomalies. And collectors today have identified several types of mistakes that elevate the coin's worth, such as double dies where letters and numbers on the coin's obverse or reverse appear double, creating a fascinating visual effect. Off-center strikes where the coin's design is shifted, leaving blank areas that amplify its rarity. Repunched mint marks, which occur when the S mint mark was stamped more than once, leading to overlapping impressions that experts hunt down. And die cracks or cuts that appear when the dies themselves begin to break, creating raised lines or missing sections on the coin's surface that make it visually unique. And among these variations, the most prized are those that combine multiple errors. For example, a 1951 Wheat Penny that shows a double date along with a repunched mint mark and an off-center strike has the perfect storm of conditions to send its value soaring into the millions. Now, to appreciate why this coin can reach $3 million, we need to understand the interplay of rarity, demand, and condition, since even among error coins, not all are created equal, because while a minor misalignment might boost value modestly, a dramatic error in mint state condition certified by grading companies like PCGS or NGC can attract bidding wars from elite collectors and investors at auction houses. And history has shown that iconic coins like the 1943 copper penny or the 1955 double die wheat penny can achieve staggering prices because they combine narrative, scarcity, and visual appeal, just like the 1951's rarity. But what truly sets the $3 million example apart is that it likely represents a perfect storm where the coin is not only rare but also preserved in immaculate condition, free from wear, with luster intact, making it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that collectors covet. And this is why enthusiasts scour estate sales, old collections, and even pocket change with the hope of stumbling upon such a fortune disguised as a penny. And when you think about it, the allure of coins like this lies not just in their monetary value but also in the history they carry, because every 1951's penny tells the story of post-war America, of machines stamping millions of coins daily, of workers inspecting outputs, yet missing tiny imperfections that would decades later create millionaires. And in this way, every error penny is like a time capsule of human oversight and mechanical chance. And let's not forget that the wheat reverse itself, with its two wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, symbolizes an era of resilience, agriculture, and simplicity, making the coin not only financially valuable but also culturally meaningful. And when collectors chase after a $3 million 1951's penny, they are not just investing in copper, but in history, artistry, and the thrill of owning something that few others will ever see. And while you may wonder how often such coins appear, the truth is they are exceedingly rare, yet history has proven that ordinary people sometimes discover extraordinary coins, like the stories of families finding rare pennies in jars, or collectors uncovering hidden gems in inherited collections. So imagine the excitement of realizing that an old penny in your possession could be worth more than a mansion. And this is why knowledge of errors is power, because spotting doubling on Liberty or the date, recognizing an unusual mint mark, or noticing an off-center design could mean the difference between dismissing a coin and securing a multi-million-dollar treasure. And auction records prove that when such coins surface, they ignite bidding wars, with collectors competing fiercely because they know these rarities do not come around often. And the market for rare wheat pennies remains strong, with demand not only from traditional numismatists, but also from investors seeking tangible assets in uncertain times. So the $3 million valuation of the 1951's wheat penny is not just hype, but a reflection of real forces of supply and demand amplified by historical significance and collector passion. And this is why videos like this matter, because they spread awareness and inspire more people to check their change, to look closely at their old coins, and to appreciate the hidden wealth that might be sitting unnoticed. And so as we conclude this journey through the story of the 1951's Wheat Penny, let this be a reminder that small things can hold immense value, that errors can transform flaws into fortunes, and that your next great discovery could be waiting in a coin jar, an attic, or a simple handful of change. So keep looking, keep learning, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next lucky person to uncover a $3 million treasure. And if you found this story exciting, make sure you like and subscribe, because the world of rare coins is filled with wonders, and the adventure never ends with the incredible 1951's Wheat Penny valued at $3 million because of its errors and mistakes worth big money. Next, 1954's Wheat Penny. We deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures that could be sitting right in your pocket change or coin collection without you even realizing it. Today we are going to explore a coin that has captured the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike, the 1954's Wheat Penny, a small 1-cent piece struck at the San Francisco Mint that, due to a combination of incredible errors, historical significance, and rarity, has been valued by some experts and collectors at a staggering $6 million, an amount that seems unimaginable for such a small denomination coin, but makes perfect sense once you unravel the complex story behind it, the intricate mistakes during minting, the specific conditions of production, and the survival rate of these coins in high grade that all converge to make this an extraordinary numismatic marvel. So let's embark on a journey together to understand how a simple penny from 1954 became one of the most legendary and valuable pieces of American coinage history. When we talk about wheat pennies, most people think of them as common coins minted in the billions between 1909 and 1958, with the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the simple wheat stalks on the reverse. But hidden among these billions are extremely rare varieties and mint errors that transform what was meant to be just a cent into a treasure worth millions. And the 1954's Wheat Penny is one of those gems, struck in San Francisco during the post-World War II boom era when coin production was still transitioning from wartime constraints. Mint employees occasionally made mistakes that slipped through quality control, resulting in coins with doubled dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, die cracks, lamination errors, and other striking anomalies that today fascinate collectors. Now, what makes the 1954's stand out is a remarkable combination of multiple possible errors that have been identified on different surviving specimens, such as repunched mint marks where the S appears doubled or tripled due to manual punching of the mint mark onto the die, something common in the 1950s, but highly collectible today, especially when the doubling is strong and easily visible. Another variety includes die cracks that run dramatically across Lincoln's portrait, giving the coin a unique appearance, sometimes described as a Scarface effect, which collectors prize as an unusual accident of minting. Additionally, there are known double die obverse varieties where elements of the date, the lettering in Liberty, and even parts of "I in God We Trust" appear doubled, giving the coin an almost ghostly appearance when examined under magnification. And then you have off-center strikes where the coin was not seated properly in the press and only part of the design was struck, leaving a crescent of blank planchet exposed, which makes these coins both visually interesting and valuable. But perhaps the most dramatic errors on the 1954's Wheat Penny involved planchet flaws such as laminations where parts of the metal peel away or clip errors where part of the blank was missing before striking. These not only make the coin scarce, but also desirable to advanced collectors who chase such rare mistakes. Now you may wonder why such coins could reach values as astronomical as $6 million. And the answer lies not only in the errors themselves, but also in the condition, rarity, and demand. For example, if a 1954's Wheat Penny with dramatic doubling or a spectacular mint error survives in pristine mint state condition graded MS67 or higher by a top grading service such as PCS or NGC, the rarity of both the error and the grade creates intense competition among wealthy collectors and investors who want to own a piece of numismatic history. Think of it this way. Out of millions minted, only a handful may survive with such unique errors in flawless condition, and in the world of coin collecting, rarity and condition drive price more than anything else. Add to that the historical context of the early 1950s, when the United States was experiencing economic growth, the Cold War was intensifying, and American coinage was still following traditional designs before the major changes of the 1960s. And suddenly you have not just a coin, but a tangible piece of history, a conversation starter, and an object of desire for collectors worldwide. When we break down the possible errors that contribute to the legendary status of the 1954 Wheat Penny, we see several categories, starting with the repunched mint marks, which come in varieties like RPM 001, RPM 002, and so forth, cataloged by specialists, some of which show dramatic shifts of the S mint mark north, south, east, or west, sometimes even creating the illusion of multiple mint marks. These are highly sought after by error variety collectors. Then, there are double die obverse, where the doubling can be strong on the date 1954, making the numerals look like shadows of themselves, or on the motto, "I in God we trust," where the letters appear thickened and distorted. These varieties are visually striking and thus command high premiums. Another fascinating type is the die break or cut error, where a piece of the die breaks off, leaving a blob of metal on the coin. These major die breaks are dramatic and instantly noticeable, and when combined with the fact that few such coins survive, they can reach enormous values at auction. Some specimens have shown obverse and reverse die cracks running across Lincoln's face or through the wheat stalks, which only adds to their collectability. In addition to these striking errors, you have planchet anomalies, like clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing, creating a bite mark effect. These can be straight clips, curved clips, or ragged clips depending on how the blank was cut before striking. Each type has its own charm and market. Another rare planchet error is a lamination flaw, where the metal surface flakes or peels, often creating wild patterns that make each coin unique. Collectors love these as they are essentially one of a kind. And of course, off-center strikes, which are extremely dramatic when the design is shifted 10%, 20%, or even more off the planchet, creating an unusual and highly desirable appearance. The more off-center the strike, the rarer and more valuable it tends to be. Now consider what happens when one coin combines several of these factors. For example, imagine a 1954 Wheat Penny with a strong repunched mint mark, a dramatic double die obverse, and a lamination flaw, all in mint state condition with original luster. Such a piece would be almost unique, and in the high-end market, uniqueness is everything. Wealthy collectors may bid furiously to own it, pushing the price into the millions. Auctions have shown us repeatedly that when two or more wealthy collectors want the same unique coin, the price can skyrocket beyond all expectations. And that is how you end up with stories of coins like the 1954 Wheat Penny reaching valuations as high as $6 million. But the fascination doesn't stop there, because every time such a coin makes headlines, it reignites the treasure hunt among everyday people who go through their jars of change, inherited coin collections, or rolls of pennies from the bank, hoping to stumble upon such a treasure. The dream of turning a penny into millions fuels the hobby and draws more enthusiasts into numismatics. In fact, this is why wheat pennies in general remain so popular. They are affordable to start collecting, yet they hide the potential for discovering life-changing rarities. The 1954 stands as a symbol of that dream. When you think about it, the odds of a coin like this surviving in top condition are minuscule, because most pennies circulated heavily, being used in daily transactions for candy, newspapers, bus fares, and countless small purchases. Coins would rub, scratch, and wear down, losing their sharp details. Only a few rolls saved by collectors or accidentally stashed away in drawers remained untouched, and among those only a microscopic fraction had the combination of dramatic errors that today make them legendary. And those survivors are the ones that fuel the $6 million story. we should also consider the psychological and historical value. Because owning such a coin is like holding a time capsule from 1954, a year that saw major events. Like the Brown v. Board of Education decision, the launch of the first nuclear-powered submarine USS Nautilus, and the rise of rock and roll culture, having a coin minted that year connects the honor directly to that era, giving the penny not just metal value or rarity value but cultural resonance. It becomes an artifact of American history as much as a collectible. Next, 1952 Wheat Penny. We deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where small pieces of metal that most people overlook in their daily lives can actually turn out to be life-changing treasures worth millions. And today, we are going to unravel the story of the 1952 Wheat Penny, a coin that has stunned collectors and historians alike because certain rare examples with extraordinary errors and minting mistakes have fetched values as high as $5 million at auctions, making it one of the most coveted Lincoln cents in American history. So grab your seat and let's embark on this journey into how a simple copper coin from Denver in 1952 became a legend in numismatics. Because at first glance, the Wheat Penny seems like an ordinary 1-cent piece minted in huge quantities. But when you dig deeper, you begin to uncover mysteries, anomalies, and striking errors that transform it from pocket change into a historical artifact of immense value. And to understand the importance of the 1952 penny, we must first consider the minting process and the era in which it was struck, as the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln wheat cents during the early 1950s to keep up with post-war economic activity, and the Denver Mint in particular was known for high output, often at the expense of careful quality control, which naturally created opportunities for errors and varieties to slip through. And coin collectors today obsess over these mistakes because they represent a break in the perfection of mass production, a glimpse into the human and mechanical flaws of the minting process. And in the case of the 1952 penny, these flaws range from doubled dies, repunched mint marks, die cracks, lamination errors, off-center strikes, and even rare transitional mistakes involving planchet composition, each of which can dramatically increase the desirability and market value of a coin. So imagine holding a penny where the date appears doubled due to a misalignment in the hubbing process, or where the mint mark was punched more than once, leaving a shadowy outline that collectors can spot with magnification. Or even more dramatic, imagine a coin where the metal surface itself begins to peel because of improper alloy mixing, creating a lamination error. All of these are possibilities with the 1952 and that is why its story is so electrifying for collectors. But to truly grasp why someone would pay $5 million for one of these coins, we have to talk about rarity, demand, and historical intrigue. Because although millions of 1952 pennies were minted, only a tiny fraction contained dramatic errors, and among those only a handful survived in pristine condition without being circulated into oblivion. And when you combine rarity with collector demand and the passion for Lincoln wheat cents, you end up with astronomical auction prices, as wealthy collectors compete for the privilege of owning what they see as the crown jewel of their collection. And another fascinating angle is the historical context, because the early 1950s were a time of transition in America, when the country was adjusting to its post-war identity and the mint itself was experimenting with different equipment and procedures. So the errors on these coins act almost like historical fingerprints of that time, telling a story beyond just the copper they're struck on. And that is why numismatists love them. But let's explore in detail the types of errors that make the 1952 penny so special, because one of the most famous varieties is the double die obverse, where Lincoln's portrait or the date shows significant doubling visible to the naked eye, a dramatic feature that can turn a common cent into a six-figure coin on its own. And if such a coin also has a Denver mint mark with repunching or a misaligned strike, it becomes even more valuable. And then we have off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the planchet was not properly centered when struck. And extreme examples where more than 50% of the design is missing can fetch incredible sums, especially when the date and mint mark are still visible. And another major error is broad strikes where the coin was struck without the retaining collar, causing it to spread out unnaturally, creating an odd shape that collectors find mesmerizing. And then there are clipped planchets where part of the metal blank was cut incorrectly, resulting in a crescent-shaped gap on the coin. All of these possibilities make each 1952D era penny unique, and in a market driven by uniqueness, the sky is the limit on value. But we cannot forget about condition, because even the rarest error loses much of its appeal if it is heavily worn or damaged, which is why uncirculated examples graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC command staggering prices. And when one of these coins appears at a major auction, it becomes headline news in the numismatic world, sparking bidding wars that push prices into the millions. And this is exactly how a coin that once had a face value of just 1 cent has transformed into a $5 million treasure. But another key factor is the psychological and emotional allure, because owning such a coin is like holding a piece of American history, a tangible link to the past, and that emotional connection drives collectors to pay extraordinary sums. And stories of people discovering these coins in old jars, inherited collections, or even pocket change add to the mystique, fueling dreams that maybe anyone could stumble upon a fortune hiding in plain sight. And while the majority of 1952D pennies are indeed common and worth only a few cents, it is the possibility, however slim, that makes the hunt exciting, because buried among the ordinary are those few extraordinary pieces that can change lives. And let us also discuss the role of auction houses and grading companies in shaping these values, because when a major firm authenticates and certifies a coin as a rare double die or dramatic error, it gives buyers the confidence to bid high. And when two or more wealthy collectors clash in bidding wars, the price soars to unprecedented levels. And that is why the $5 million figure is not just about the coin itself, but about the market dynamics, the passion, and the competition. And it is fascinating to think that such a tiny object carries such weight in history, economics, and culture. And perhaps the greatest lesson is that details matter, because a tiny mint mark error or a subtle doubling can separate a coin worth 1 cent from one worth millions, and that encourages collectors to look closer, to pay attention, to appreciate the craftsmanship and the flaws alike. So when we talk about the 1952D Wheat Penny, we are not just talking about copper and minting mistakes. We are talking about a story of chance, rarity, passion, and history converging into one coin. And this story continues to inspire new generations of collectors to take up the magnifying glass and search through their change, hoping to uncover their own piece of hidden treasure. Because the dream of finding a $5 million penny keeps the hobby alive and thrilling. And as long as these stories are told, the legend of the 1952D Wheat Penny will live on, reminding us that even the smallest things can hold unimaginable value, and that history often hides in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone curious enough to uncover it. Next, 1954's Wheat Penny. Today, we are going to explore the fascinating story of the 1954's Wheat Penny, a coin that on the surface might appear to be just an ordinary 1 cent piece, but in reality has shocked collectors and numismatists around the world because of its unique errors and striking mistakes that have pushed its value in certain cases to an incredible $3 million. And as we unravel this story, you will begin to understand why a penny minted more than half a century ago in San Francisco could command such an astronomical price at auctions and among private collectors. So let's go step by step into the details of what makes the 1954's Wheat Penny so valuable, starting with the basics of its production. In 1954, the San Francisco Mint was still striking Lincoln wheat cents, coins that had been introduced in 1909 to commemorate Abraham Lincoln's centennial birthday. The wheat ears reverse was still in use, and these coins carried a strong nostalgic and historical value. But in 1954, minting conditions and quality control were far from perfect. Dies often wore out, maintenance was inconsistent, and human error combined with high demand meant mistakes were inevitable, and sometimes those mistakes created rarities. And that is where the story of this particular coin becomes remarkable, because collectors have discovered that some 1954 wheat pennies were struck with incredible flaws ranging from doubled dies to off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, lamination errors, planchet flaws, and even clashes between dies. Each of these anomalies contributed to the uniqueness of individual coins, and when rarity meets historical context and demand, value soars. One of the most sought-after varieties is the doubled die, where the design elements such as the date 1954 or the letters "In Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appear doubled, creating a shadow-like effect easily visible under magnification. These coins instantly catch the eyes of seasoned collectors because the doubling was not intentional and resulted from die misalignment, making each surviving example a one-of-a-kind collectible. Another fascinating error is the repunchment mark. The small s below the date was sometimes hand-punched more than once into the die, and when the impressions did not perfectly align, the result was a doubled or even tripled s mint mark that gave the coin a distinctive look. For collectors, this adds another layer of intrigue and rarity, and depending on the clarity of the repunch, values can rise dramatically. Then there are off-center strikes, where the coin is not properly centered when struck, leaving part of the design missing, while the rest of the blank planchet remains exposed. Coins with significant off-center errors are highly collectible, especially if the date remains visible, and for the 1954 wheat pennies such mistakes are scarce, pushing prices into the stratosphere when one is discovered in high grade. Let's not forget die cracks and cuds, which occur when dies break down and leave raised lines or blobs of metal on the struck coin. These imperfections, though considered flaws at the time, now enhance the individuality and uniqueness of each coin. Lamination errors, caused by impurities or improper bonding of the metal, created peeling or flaking surfaces, again making certain coins unique specimens. Collectors today recognize that each of these mistakes tells a story about the minting process and the challenges faced by the San Francisco Mint in that era. Now you may ask, why would these errors push a coin's value into the millions? And the answer lies in the perfect combination of rarity, demand, condition, and historical fascination. Coins like the 1954 wheat penny and error varieties are already rare, but when combined with superb condition, such as mint state grades given by PCGS or NGC, their values multiply exponentially. Imagine finding a pristine 1954 double die wheat penny with blazing original luster, sharp strikes, and minimal marks. That coin could easily climb to multi-million-dollar territory because collectors and investors are willing to pay astronomical sums for one-of-a-kind numismatic treasures. In addition to errors, the simple fact that 1954 was one of the later years of wheat penny production adds to the allure. As collectors seek to complete sets, demand rises for these tougher mint mark issues, especially those carrying dramatic mint mistakes. Another factor is the mythology that builds around certain coins. Once a specimen sells for a record price, the entire numismatic community pays attention, and future auctions become competitive battlefields where wealthy collectors vie for ownership, driving the price even higher. That is exactly how the legend of the 1954 wheat penny escalated, with whispers of rare multi-million-dollar sales and collectors chasing the dream of finding one in circulation. Imagine the excitement of someone who stumbled upon a 1954 wheat penny in their change, unaware of its hidden value, only to later discover that it carried a striking error worth millions. This dream continues to fuel interest and speculation around the coin, and stories of life-changing discoveries keep the buzz alive. Another important element in this tale is how grading affects value. A 1954 wheat penny with errors in worn circulated condition might be interesting but not earth-shattering. However, in mint state red condition with vibrant color and minimal flaws, the same coin transforms into a world-class rarity. The population of such coins is minuscule, and that scarcity is what supports the sky-high valuations. Collectors also examine die states, meaning how late or early in the die's life a coin was struck. Early die state coins often show sharper doubling or clearer repunchment marks, making them more desirable, whereas later die state coins might show more die cracks or wear. Each tells a different story and appeals to different types of collectors. Beyond technical details, there is also the emotional and historical resonance. The Lincoln Wheat Pennies series represents one of America's most beloved designs, with Lincoln's portrait symbolizing unity and strength during challenging decades, and owning a rare error from that series feels like owning a piece of that history frozen in time. It is more than metal, it is a tangible link to the past. And that sentimental value often drives collectors to outbid each other for the rarest specimens. So when you hear that a 1954 Wheat Penny with dramatic errors can fetch $3 million, it is not just about the copper, it is about the unique confluence of history, rarity, beauty, and collector passion. And as the numismatic market continues to thrive, stories like this fuel even greater interest, encouraging people to check their change jars, their old collections, or inherited boxes of coins from parents or grandparents, because you never know when a small copper cent might hold a fortune. The 1954 Wheat Penny exemplifies how mistakes at the mint can turn into treasures for collectors, and every detail from a double die to a mint mark anomaly adds to the lore. Experts continue to study die varieties and catalog them, giving each coin its own identity and place in the larger narrative of American numismatics. And as long as collectors remain fascinated by rarity and error coins, the legend of the multimillion-dollar 1954 Wheat Penny will endure, inspiring new generations to search for hidden treasures and fueling the excitement of the hobby for years to come. And while many might dismiss pennies as insignificant pocket change, stories like these remind us that sometimes the smallest things can hold the greatest value, turning what was once a simple 1-cent coin into a $3 million masterpiece of history, error, and collector obsession. Next, 1951 Wheat Penny. Today, we are going to uncover the amazing story of the 1951 Wheat Penny that has shocked collectors and enthusiasts alike by reaching an astonishing value of $4 million. A mind-blowing figure for a coin that at first glance seems like just another common cent from the mid-20th century. Yet hidden within its metal are the secrets of errors, mistakes, and unusual characteristics that transform it into one of the most valuable treasures ever discovered in numismatics. And this journey into its details will show you why certain coins that may look ordinary in pocket change can in fact carry staggering fortunes if you know what to look for. So buckle in as we explore the fascinating errors and the striking peculiarities of the 1951 Wheat Penny, a coin struck at the San Francisco Mint during a time when minting technology was far less precise than today, and quality control allowed for occasional mistakes to slip through the cracks, mistakes that would later become the golden ticket for lucky collectors, because unlike perfectly normal coins that might fetch a few dollars at most, the 1951 with rare errors enters a different universe of value thanks to doubled dies, repunchment marks, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, die cracks, die clashes, and even mystery variations that still leave experts debating their origins. And what makes this story even more electrifying is that it's not just one type of error that can make this coin so valuable, but a combination of possibilities, meaning that the 1951 Wheat Penny is like a treasure chest where every detail can hide a fortune. So let's begin with the most famous error type associated with this year, the double die, where the coin's design elements like the lettering in Liberty or I in God We Trust or the date 1951 itself appear doubled because the die that struck the coin shifted slightly between impressions during production. And when collectors find an example of strong doubling, it makes their jaws drop since such coins are instantly more desirable and command huge prices. But in the case of the 1951 These double die varieties are exceptionally scarce and rare examples that show clear, bold doubling can elevate the coin's value into the stratosphere. Then add to this the repunched mint mark varieties, because back in 1951 the S-mint mark was still being punched into dies by hand, which meant that sometimes the engraver had to repunch it if it was misaligned, leaving behind shadow impressions of an S beneath or beside the final mint mark. And these repunched S varieties come in many forms, some barely noticeable and others dramatic enough to stand out even without magnification, and the more dramatic the variety, the higher the value. So when one of these errors combines with a double die, collectors know they've found something truly spectacular. But the story doesn't end there, because off-center strikes add another layer of intrigue, with coins struck significantly off-center, showing blank crescent-shaped areas where the die failed to strike fully, and these are always prized by error collectors, especially when the date and mint mark remain fully visible, because then the coin still tells its story while showing off the dramatic error. And if you imagine a 1951 S penny with such an off-center strike combined with another rare feature, you can begin to see why collectors would be willing to pay millions. And then there are the planchet flaws, like laminations where pieces of the metal peel away, or streaks in the alloy that cause unusual surface patterns, or even the rare case of a penny struck on the wrong planchet, such as a dime or foreign coin blank, mistakes that can send its value soaring, since these one-of-a-kind minting accidents are the stuff of numismatic legends. But don't forget the dramatic die cracks and die clashes either, because as dies aged they developed fissures that transferred raised lines and bumps onto the coins, giving each one a unique fingerprint, and in some cases, a die clash where the obverse and reverse dies collided without a planchet between them left ghostly outlines of design elements imprinted on the opposite side of the coin, making for spectacular collector's pieces. And all of these error types converge in the fascinating narrative of the 1951 S Wheat Penny, a coin that on the surface was part of a huge mintage of over 180 million pieces, yet in reality produced only a handful of extraordinary specimens. And the law of supply and demand ensures that when a coin is this rare and this desired by both advanced collectors and wealthy investors, its value skyrockets beyond imagination. And the $4 million valuation comes into focus when we understand how multiple factors converge: rarity, condition, demand, and most of all, the uniqueness of its minting mistakes. Because unlike art where reproductions can be made, a mint error coin is literally impossible to duplicate, since it occurred by accident at a specific moment in history, which means each one is an irreplaceable artifact. And when such a coin survives for decades in pristine condition, perhaps stored away in a coin jar or forgotten collection until rediscovered, its value grows exponentially. And in the marketplace where deep-pocketed collectors compete for the chance to own something no one else in the world has, prices can climb into the millions. And imagine the thrill of someone discovering such a coin in change or in an old family album, turning a single cent into a multi-million-dollar treasure. It's the dream that fuels collectors, and the reason stories like the 1951 S penny captivate us. But what adds even more intrigue is the possibility of undiscovered varieties still out there, because experts believe not all error examples have been found. And somewhere in circulation or in dusty coin rolls may lie a specimen with extraordinary characteristics that no one has seen yet, waiting to be uncovered and perhaps exceed even the $4 million record. And this makes hunting for wheat pennies especially exciting, because while most are worth a few cents or maybe a few dollars in high grade, the possibility that one might stumble upon a once-in-a-lifetime error penny is always there, driving hobbyists to keep searching. And beyond the errors themselves, the historical context of 1951 adds depth to the story, with America in the post-war boom and coins like these circulating in everyday life, meaning that the same penny that may have bought candy or a newspaper could today be worth a fortune. And holding such a coin is like holding a piece of history infused with mystery and luck. And that's why collectors are obsessed, because the 1951 Wheat Penny is more than just a piece of copper. It is a symbol of how mistakes, accidents, and tiny imperfections can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. And as we keep uncovering these details, it becomes clear why this coin commands such incredible prices, and why auctions see bidding wars that make headlines, with collectors and investors alike knowing that owning a 1951 with dramatic errors is like owning a golden ticket in the numismatic world, and it inspires all of us to look closer at the coins in our hands, to treasure the details and possibilities that lie within even the smallest pieces of change. Because you never know when you might discover that hidden gem that could change your life forever. And so the story of the 1951 Wheat Penny teaches us that true value is often hidden in plain sight, waiting for a curious eye to notice, and the incredible journey of a simple copper set rising to $4 million is proof that numismatics is not just a hobby, but a thrilling adventure of history, rarity, and chance. And as collectors continue to search, the legend of the 1951 Wheat Penny will only grow, reminding us that coins are far more than money. They are pieces of art, stories of the mint, and sometimes, when errors and miracles align, priceless treasures worth millions. So keep your eyes open, because the next time you look at a wheat penny, it could be the beginning of your own million-dollar story. Next, 1944 Wheat Penny. Today, we are going to explore one of the most extraordinary and legendary coins in American numismatic history, the 1944 Wheat Penny that has stunned collectors and investors alike because of its remarkable errors and mistakes, a coin so elusive and mysterious that one particular example has fetched as much as $10 million at auction, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever known. And the story behind this coin is not only about its age, or the fact that it comes from the wartime era, but also because of the extremely rare minting circumstances that created errors and oddities, which collectors chase with relentless passion. So let's break down why the 1944 Wheat Penny is more than just an ordinary coin, and how a simple cent became a multi-million-dollar treasure. Starting with the context that during World War II the U.S. Mint was under extreme pressure to conserve copper for wartime needs, which is why in 1943 pennies were struck in steel coated with zinc instead of the traditional copper composition. But then in 1944 the mint reverted back to copper using spent shell casings from the war. However, in that transition some rare mistakes happened, and a few coins were accidentally struck on leftover 1943 steel planchets, creating a mix-up that would make those few 1944 steel cents some of the most valuable errors ever discovered. Yet in addition to that, there were also pennies that showed double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, clipped planchets, and other minting anomalies which amplified their rarity and value. So when you combine the historic backdrop, the minting errors, and the sheer scarcity, you get a recipe for one of the most legendary coins in U.S. history. And people who stumble upon such pieces might be holding a life-changing fortune in their hands without even realizing it. Because imagine pulling an old jar of coins from your grandparents' attic and finding a 1944 penny that looks a little odd or different. That very coin could be worth millions depending on the type of error it carries. And among collectors, the 1944 steel penny is particularly iconic, with only a handful known to exist today. Some from the Philadelphia Mint, a few from Denver, and possibly a couple from San Francisco. And when such a coin comes to auction, the bidding wars are ferocious because serious collectors and wealthy investors are eager to own a piece of history. In fact, the $10 million record valuation has become symbolic of how far people are willing to go for a coin that tells a story of war, scarcity, and minting mishaps. And beyond the steel errors, there are also bronze planchet errors, transitional mistakes, and incredible double die varieties where the date or lettering appears struck twice, giving the coin a ghost-like doubling effect that immediately stands out to the trained eye. And let's not forget that even minor errors, like a clipped edge or a repunched mint mark, can send values soaring into the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on grade and rarity. So it's not just one singular type of error that makes the 1944 penny valuable, but the whole range of possibilities that can occur in the minting process, each one adding to the intrigue and desirability. And the fact that millions of normal 1944 wheat pennies were made only makes the rare errors more elusive, because they hide among the ordinary. And for decades, treasure hunters have been searching coin rolls, estate collections, and flea markets, hoping to uncover that once-in-a-lifetime find. And stories circulate of lucky individuals who thought they had just a regular penny, only to later discover it was one of the legendary 1944 errors worth a fortune. And this is what keeps collectors excited, because the possibility always exists that another multi-million-dollar example could surface. So let's imagine the possibilities. A 1944 penny struck on a leftover steel planchet from 1943 could be mistaken at first glance for a normal steel cent, but its date gives it away instantly. And a coin like that in pristine condition with sharp details and minimal wear is like the holy grail of coin collecting. Or a 1944 penny that was struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing but still showing a clear date, can also be worth thousands. While a double die obverse with noticeable doubling on Liberty or In God We Trust can send collectors into a frenzy, and the repunchment marks where the small letter D or S above the date was accidentally punched more than once creates fascinating varieties that specialists spend years studying, cataloging, and trading. And while ordinary collectors might overlook these subtle details, advanced numismatists know that these little quirks can translate into enormous value. And it's not just about errors, but also about condition, because a coin with a rare error in a high grade certified by a top grading service like PCGS or NGC can multiply in value compared to one with heavy wear. So collectors strive to find coins that are not only rare by type, but also preserved in near-perfect condition. And the 1944 wheat penny that fetched $10 million had both an extraordinary error combined with impeccable preservation, which made it irresistible to the wealthiest buyers. And when we talk about these values, it's not just about the coin itself, but about the story it tells, the slice of history it represents, and the passion it ignites in collectors around the world. Because coin collecting is more than just a hobby, it's a journey through time, a connection to the past, and in the case of the 1944 penny, it's also a pathway to unimaginable wealth. And while most of us might only ever see these legendary coins in museums, auction catalogs, or online articles, the dream of finding one in circulation or hidden in a family collection keeps the excitement alive. And that's why even today people still check their pocket change, roll hunt, and search through boxes of wheat pennies, hoping to discover something extraordinary. And the allure of the 1944 penny lies in that mix of mystery, rarity, and the chance of life-changing fortune. So whether it's a steel planchet error, a double die, a repunchment mark, or a clipped planchet, every little variation has the potential to turn a simple cent into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. And the fascinating part is that these errors weren't intentional. They were mistakes, accidents in the minting process caused by human error, machine malfunction, or transitional confusion. Yet those very imperfections are what make the coin perfect in the eyes of collectors, turning flaws into treasures. And that's the beauty of numismatics, because every coin tells a story, and some stories are worth millions. And in the case of the 1944 wheat penny, it's a story that has captivated the world, proving that even the smallest denomination can hold the greatest value. So as you explore your own coins, remember that hidden among the ordinary there could be an extraordinary piece waiting to be discovered. And perhaps one day you too could hold in your hand a coin that carries not just history, but also the kind of value that can change lives forever. And that is the incredible tale of the 1944 wheat penny, worth $10 million because of its errors, mistakes, and the endless possibilities that make it one of the most valuable coins in history. A reminder that sometimes the tiniest details can create the biggest fortunes, and that the world of rare coins will always have room for wonder, discovery, and excitement beyond imagination. Next, 1955 wheat penny. The 1955 wheat penny, a coin that has fascinated collectors, historians, and treasure hunters for decades and has been known to sell for millions of dollars, with some examples valued at around $6 million because of the rare errors and mistakes that make it such an incredible piece of numismatic history. And in this video we're going to explore everything about why this coin is so valuable, how these mistakes came to be, what kinds of errors are most desirable, and the possibilities that make this particular penny a once-in-a-lifetime find that could change someone's fortune if discovered in pocket change. So sit back and join us as we unravel the amazing story behind the 1955 double-die wheat penny, and why it continues to capture imaginations all around the world. Because when we talk about error coins and the huge sums they fetch at auctions, there is perhaps no better example than this iconic cent. And the story begins back in the mid-1950s, when the U.S. Mint was working around the clock to produce large quantities of coins for circulation, and in 1955, at the Philadelphia Mint, something extraordinary happened during the minting process that would go down in history: the creation of one of the most famous double-die obverse coins, where the dies used to strike the pennies became misaligned during the hubbing process, resulting in strong, clear doubling on the obverse design. Especially noticeable in the date and the inscriptions such as Liberty and I in God We Trust. And this doubling is so strong that it can be seen with the naked eye without magnification, which is one reason collectors went wild when these coins first began to appear in circulation. And what makes this even more fascinating is that unlike some minor doubling errors that require magnification or are only visible under certain angles of light, the 1955 double-die penny is unmistakable, with bold, dramatic doubling that makes it stand apart from regular cents. And the reason it is worth so much today, with some specimens reaching $6 million, is because only a limited number of them were struck before the error was detected, meaning that while many were produced, only a fraction actually escaped into circulation, with estimates suggesting that maybe 20,000 to 24,000 entered circulation, though today only a much smaller portion survive in collectible condition. And because of their iconic status, demand for them has never waned. In fact, it has only grown over time as more people have learned about the coin story, and as numismatics has become more popular, with collectors willing to pay astronomical sums for pristine examples, especially those graded in mint state condition by grading services like PCGS or NGC. And the story doesn't stop at just the doubling itself, because there are also fascinating layers of history, rumors, and speculation about how so many of these coins got out into circulation before being discovered, with some suggesting that the mint workers at the time decided not to destroy the faulty coins, but instead released them into circulation through vending machine companies in the Boston area, which is why so many early discoveries of this error coin came from cigarette vending machines in Massachusetts, making the coin not only rare, but also steeped in legend and lore. And when we think about mistakes in coin production, most people assume the mint is perfect and flawless. But the truth is the production process is complicated, and even the slightest misalignment during die creation can lead to major mistakes, which is exactly what happened in this case. And the doubling on the 1955 wheat penny is so dramatic that it almost looks like two completely separate impressions were made, which is exactly what excites collectors, who value strong visual errors far more than subtle ones. And to add more intrigue, there are also countless counterfeits and imitations out there, because the fame of this coin has inspired many to try to recreate it. But experienced collectors know how to identify the real ones by examining the details of the doubling, the die markers, and the overall characteristics unique to genuine 1955 double-die cents. And that brings us to why this coin has reached such astronomical value, because while rarity is one factor, the story, the notoriety, and the dramatic nature of the error all combine to make it one of the most desirable coins in American history. And in the world of numismatics, desirability often drives value even more than absolute rarity, which is why this coin is so special. And over the years, auction houses have seen incredible results for these coins, with circulated examples fetching thousands of dollars, and high-grade uncirculated specimens commanding hundreds of thousands to even millions. And it's not just a coin, it's a piece of history. A symbol of how something that started as a mistake can turn into one of the most famous treasures in the world. And when people talk about searching through old wheat pennies, this is often the holy grail they're hoping to find, the dream that keeps treasure hunters sifting through jars, rolls, and collections in search of that magical piece. And though the odds are slim today because so many have already been found and are locked away in collections, the possibility still exists, which fuels the excitement and the allure. And another fascinating layer of the story is that while the obverse double die is the most famous, there are also minor double die reverses known for 1955, though they are far less dramatic and not nearly as valuable. Yet they show how common doubling issues were at the time due to the technology and production processes used by the mint. And looking closer, the fact that the 1955 double die obverse penny has such clear doubling on the inscriptions, but not on Lincoln's portrait itself, is part of what makes it so visually striking, because the words seem almost to jump out at you with their doubled outlines. And over time, as the story of this coin spread through newspapers, magazines, and later television programs, it cemented itself as one of the most recognized and sought-after coins even by people who aren't serious collectors, making it a cultural icon as well as a numismatic one. And this fame plays a huge role in why some specimens are worth millions today, because in addition to the numismatic value, they have a broader appeal that goes beyond just collectors, drawing in investors, historians, and even casual enthusiasts who want to own a piece of history. And if we think about the psychology of collecting, it's not just about owning something rare, it's about owning something with a story. And the 1955 double die penny has one of the best stories in coin collecting, from its accidental creation to its release into circulation, and its rise to legendary status. And that story adds emotional and cultural value on top of the already significant rarity. And when we consider why one of these coins could reach $6 million in value, it's important to understand how auction dynamics work, because when two or more determined collectors with deep pockets compete for a legendary coin, the price can skyrocket far beyond expectations, which is exactly what has happened in recent years with other famous coins, like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1913 Liberty Head Nickel. And the 1955 double die penny fits right into that category of legendary rarities. And so every time one of these comes up for sale, the excitement builds, the media covers it, and the legend grows even more, further boosting demand and value. And when we think about the possibilities of discovering one, it becomes even more thrilling, because people still occasionally report finding them in circulation, though very rarely, and sometimes in old collections or coin jars passed down from relatives. And that element of chance makes it a dream coin, because, unlike some rarities that never circulated and only exist in museums, this one was out in the hands of the public, tucked away in pockets, purses, and vending machines. And so it remains part of the American story of everyday people possibly holding a fortune without even realizing it. And all of this builds into why the single cent, a coin that should have been worth 1 penny, can now be valued as high as $6 million, a number that seems almost unbelievable until you understand the history, the rarity, the story, and the passion of collectors. And when you put all of those factors together, you realize that the 1955 double die wheat penny isn't just a coin, it's a legend, a treasure, and a symbol of how even the smallest objects can hold unimaginable value. And this is why the story continues to captivate and inspire collectors and treasure hunters to this very day. Next, 1958 D Lincoln penny. Today we are uncovering the incredible story of the 1958 D wheat penny, a coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but has gained extraordinary fame and value due to its mistakes, its flaws, and its rare minting circumstances that have propelled it into the category of million-dollar treasures, with one such specimen valued at a staggering $1 million. And the deeper, we go into the history, the minting process, the errors, and the unique traits that make this particular coin so desirable to collectors, the more you will see why the 1958 Wheat Penny has become such a legendary piece of American numismatic history. So let's start from the beginning, because when the Denver Mint struck millions of wheat pennies in 1958, no one could have imagined that a small fraction of them would carry rare errors, misstrikes, double details, or strange imperfections that would transform their worth from a single cent to an unimaginable fortune. And that is exactly what makes this story exciting. For collectors, historians, and everyday people who might still stumble across one of these coins in old collections, boxes of change, or inherited estates, because the dream of turning one penny into $1 million find is what drives the hobby and keeps people searching. But what exactly went wrong with the 1958 Wheat Penny, and what kind of errors could create such astronomical value? Well, first let's talk about the minting process itself, because understanding how coins were made in the mid-20th century reveals how mistakes could slip through even in an era where mint officials tried to keep quality high. The Denver Mint used steel dies engraved with the design of the wheat penny, showing the famous Lincoln portrait on the obverse and the wheat stalks on the reverse. But these dies were subject to immense pressure, repeated use, and sometimes poor alignment or improper hubbing, which could lead to doubling, overdates, misaligned strikes, die cracks, and off-center impressions. And one of the most discussed possible errors on the 1958 Wheat Penny involves doubling of the obverse lettering or the date, where collectors have reported examples with the letters Liberty or In God We Trust showing doubled impressions that are not machine doubling but true doubled dies, making them incredibly valuable, because doubled dies are among the most sought-after mistakes in all coin collecting. And while famous double die pennies, like the 1955, are household names in numismatic circles, the 1958 double die is much rarer and thus far more valuable, with only a handful of confirmed examples, and that rarity is what fuels the $1 million price tag. But aside from double dies, there are also rumors and findings of repunched mint marks on the 1958 Wheat Penny, where the D for Denver appears punched multiple times at slightly different angles, a type of error known as RPM, which excites collectors because it shows the human element of minting when workers manually punched mint marks onto dies, and depending on the clarity of the repunch and its visibility, such an error can turn a common penny into a prized collectible. And then there are off-center strikes, which happen when the blank planchet is not properly seated in the press, leading to a coin where part of the design is missing. And collectors pay huge premiums for dramatic off-centers, especially when the date remains visible, because that anchors the coin's rarity to a specific year and mint. And die cracks or die breaks are another kind of error seen in some 1958 Wheat Pennies, creating raised lines or blobs of metal known as cuds. And while smaller cracks may not add tremendous value, large dramatic breaks can make a coin stand out as unique and highly desirable. But what truly sets the 1958 apart is its extreme scarcity of major dramatic errors, meaning when one does appear on the market, it becomes a headline-making event, and collectors will pay record sums to secure it, which is why one example has been valued around $1 million. Because when supply is virtually non-existent and demand is high among serious collectors, the value skyrockets. Now let's also consider the historical context, because 1958 was the final year of the beloved wheat reverse design before the Lincoln Memorial reverse was introduced in 1959. And that alone gives the 1958 pennies a special place in history, being the last of an era that began in 1909 with the centennial of Lincoln's birth. So when you add a dramatic error to the final year wheat penny, you create a perfect storm of collector demand, rarity, and historical significance. And beyond the known varieties, the possibilities of undiscovered errors fuel imagination, because there could be misstruck planchets, transitional planchets struck on leftover metal from other denominations, off-metal errors where a wheat penny was struck on dime or nickel stock. and even clipped planchets where part of the blank was missing before the strike. All of these potential mistakes could exist in tiny numbers, and their discovery would instantly elevate their value. And because 1958 pennies were struck in massive quantities with billions entering circulation, most people assume they are common and worthless. But it is within such large mintages that rare anomalies can hide, making every search through a coin roll or collection potentially rewarding. And when we think about the psychology of collecting, the thrill of the hunt, and the stories of ordinary people finding treasures and pocket change, it becomes clear why coins, like the 1958 penny, capture the imagination and drive prices so high at auctions. And speaking of auctions, documented sales of dramatic double die or extreme error wheat pennies often reach into 6 or 7 figures, proving that the market exists and that serious collectors are willing to pay life-changing sums for the right coin. And this isn't just about metal, but about history, rarity, and the uniqueness of mistakes that cannot be replicated. And that is why the 1958 wheat penny with its rare errors can command a price of $1 million. And let's not forget condition, because while errors themselves create rarity, the grade or preservation of the coin adds another layer. With coins in mint state condition showing sharp details and little to no wear commanding much higher premiums than circulated examples. And when you combine a dramatic error like a double die obverse with mint state red luster, you enter the realm of legendary numismatic pieces, the kind that make headlines and define collections. And people often wonder how many such coins are still out there waiting to be found, hidden away in jars, drawers, or albums. And the answer is we may never know. But the possibility keeps collectors searching and keeps stories alive. And that's part of the magic of coin collecting. Because every penny tells a story. And the story of the 1958 wheat penny is one of mistakes turned into million-dollar miracles, of ordinary cents transformed into treasures, of a hobby where history, art, and chance intersect to create value beyond imagination. So if you ever come across a 1958 wheat penny, take a closer look, study the details, check for doubling, repunchment marks, off-center strikes, or unusual features, because who knows? You might be holding on to one of the rarest and most valuable coins in American history, a coin that proves that even the smallest things can carry the biggest surprises. And with that journey through history, errors, and extraordinary value, we can see clearly why the 1958 wheat penny is not just a coin, but a million-dollar legend. Next, 1952 wheat penny. Today, as we dive into the fascinating world of rare coins where tiny details can make the biggest difference, and where a simple penny that most people overlook in their daily lives can turn out to be worth millions of dollars. And in this video, we will be focusing on one of the most intriguing examples of this phenomenon, the 1952 wheat penny. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but has shocked collectors and enthusiasts alike by reaching an astonishing value of $6 million. Because of the unique errors, minting mistakes, and rare characteristics that have made it so incredibly valuable and desirable among collectors. So let us walk through the history, the errors, the possibilities, and the reasons why this particular coin has become so legendary in the numismatic community. Starting with the fact that the San Francisco Mint in the early 1950s was known for producing wheat pennies in large numbers, but with that mass production often came inconsistencies in striking, alignment, and die preparation, all of which left room for the kinds of errors that collectors now treasure. And when we look at the 1952 penny, we see that its value today is not because of just one factor, but because of a combination of different potential mistakes and oddities that make each error penny a unique piece of history. So imagine holding in your hand a coin that was once worth a single cent, yet due to its double dies, repunchment marks, die cracks, misstrikes, off-center errors, and sometimes even planchet flaws, it can end up being sold for millions of dollars at auction. And one of the most discussed varieties of the 1952 penny is the double die obverse, where the date and letters of the word liberty, as well as the motto "In God we trust" may appear to have a doubling effect caused by a misalignment during the hubbing process of the dies. A type of error that creates an immediately visible distinction which collectors prize. And then there is the repunched mint mark error, very common among San Francisco coins of that era, where the S mint mark appears to have been punched into the die more than once, leading to overlapping impressions of the letter S which can appear tilted, doubled, or even tripled in some cases, giving each coin a distinctive look that makes it stand out from regular strikes. And beyond that, we also have the possibility of off-center strikes, where the design is not properly centered on the planchet, leaving part of the coin blank or distorted, and such off-center pennies from the 1952's issue have been recorded and can fetch staggering premiums, especially when combined with other anomalies like a strong double die, and die cracks or cuds are another form of error where imperfections in the die cause raised lines or blobs of metal to appear on the coin surface, effectively giving each penny a fingerprint of sorts, and turning what would normally be considered a flaw into a marker of rarity. And then there are clipped planchets, coins that were struck on incomplete pieces of metal because of mistakes during the blank cutting process, leaving the edge of the penny visibly clipped and adding yet another layer of desirability for collectors who thrive on finding unique minting errors. And when we talk about why these mistakes turn into million-dollar treasures, we must also consider the historical context and scarcity. Because while millions of 1952's wheat pennies were minted, very few survive in pristine condition with dramatic errors, and when one such coin does appear, especially in high grades certified by major grading services, the demand skyrockets, pushing prices into the millions as wealthy collectors compete to own a piece of numismatic history. And this is where the $6 million figure comes in, as a culmination of rarity, condition, error type, and collector enthusiasm that transforms what was once spare change into a record-breaking auction item. And to appreciate this transformation, we should look at how such coins are discovered, often hiding in plain sight in old coin jars, inherited collections, or estate sales where people have no idea of the fortune they are sitting on, only to realize later that their penny with a strange-looking date or doubled lettering is actually worth life-changing money. And this is what makes the story of the 1952's wheat penny so captivating, because it combines the thrill of discovery with the science of numismatics and the excitement of high-stakes auctions, where wealthy bidders push the value higher and higher until it reaches figures like $6 million. And beyond the financial side, there is also the fascination with how such mistakes occur, since minting errors like doubled dies result from hubbing misalignments during the die-making process, while repunched mint marks happen when mint workers had to manually punch the S into each die and sometimes did not align it perfectly the first time, and planchet flaws happened because the machinery cutting out blanks from metal sheets was not perfect, leading to off-metal or clipped coins that are now highly desirable. And so every error tells a story of the minting process itself, of the human element involved in producing coins at a time before full automation eliminated many of these mistakes. And holding such a coin is like holding a piece of history with a fingerprint of imperfection that has been turned into perfection by collector standards. And when experts grade and certify these coins, especially those with dramatic doubling or major planchet flaws, they set the stage for extraordinary valuations, because the collector market thrives on rarity, condition, and story, and the 1952's penny has all three, making it a perfect storm for multi-million-dollar sales. And this is why whenever one of these rare varieties comes up for auction, it attracts attention not just from coin collectors, but also from investors, museums, and historians, who all understand the incredible significance of such a find. And when a specific example in pristine mint state with bold doubling and a dramatic repunched mint mark was brought to auction, it captured the imagination of the numismatic world and drove bidding to unprecedented levels until the hammer price reached $6 million, cementing its status as one of the most valuable wheat pennies in existence. And yet the story does not end there, because for every known specimen, there may still be undiscovered coins sitting in collections or change jars across America, waiting for someone with a keen eye to spot the error and unlock a fortune, which is why collectors and hobbyists continue to search tirelessly through rolls of old wheat pennies, hoping to stumble upon the next $1 million discovery, and this ongoing hunt keeps the legend of the 1952's wheat penny alive, reminding us that sometimes the smallest details can carry the biggest value. And when you think about how many people must have spent such pennies decades ago without knowing their worth, it makes the story even more incredible, because today those same coins could buy houses, luxury cars, or even set someone up for life, all because of the unique combination of errors, condition, and collector demand. And so as we look at the 1952's wheat penny valued at $6 million, we are not just looking at a coin, but at a symbol of how imperfection can turn into perfection, how mistakes at the mint can create treasures for generations to cherish, and how the simple act of checking your change can sometimes lead to unimaginable rewards. And this is why coin collecting remains such an exciting hobby and investment opportunity, because with every coin comes the chance that you might uncover a hidden gem, a piece of history, and maybe, just maybe, the next $6 million penny. And with that, we can truly appreciate the beauty and rarity of the 1952's wheat penny, its errors, its story, and its extraordinary value that has made it a legend in the world of numismatics. Next, 1953 wheat penny. Today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating topics in the world of coin collecting, a world where small details make massive differences, and where ordinary pocket change can suddenly be worth a fortune, and in this case, we are talking about the legendary 1953 wheat penny, a coin that in some rare cases has been valued at an incredible $1.1 million due to its unique errors and mistakes, making it not only a prized collectible but also a symbol of how history, craftsmanship, accidents, and rarity come together to create something extraordinary. And in this discussion, we are going to explore in depth why this coin is so valuable, what specific errors and possibilities contribute to its remarkable price tag, and why collectors around the globe are willing to pay so much to own such a piece of numismatic history. So buckle up, because this is going to be a deep dive into every aspect of the 1953 wheat penny, from the minting process in Denver to the unusual conditions that allowed certain mistakes to slip through quality control, to the types of errors that were produced, and how those errors multiply the coin's rarity and desirability. And we will also explore how experts authenticate these coins, why they are so hard to find, and the stories of collectors who have encountered them. And to begin with, let us set the stage by understanding what the Wheat Penny series represents. Minted from 1909 until 1958, these coins feature the famous wheat reverse design, which pays tribute to the agricultural roots of the United States, with two stalks of wheat flanking the words 1 cent, while the obverse proudly displays the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, introduced in 1909 to commemorate his 100th birthday. And during the 1950s, wheat pennies were struck in massive quantities at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, with the Denver Mint being responsible for the 1953 penny. But despite the large production numbers, certain minting anomalies and rare mistakes have propelled specific specimens of this year and mint mark into the spotlight of the numismatic world. And when we look at why a 1953 wheat penny could command a value of $1.1 million, we have to understand the nature of mint errors and why they matter so much. For example, one of the most notable errors involves double dies, which occur when the die used to strike the coin receives more than one misaligned impression from the hub, creating a doubling effect on the coin's design. And with the 1953 penny, certain examples show doubling on the date, the mint mark, or even the lettering, such as Liberty or In God We Trust. And these double die errors make the coin far more valuable than a standard strike, and in extreme cases of doubling where the details are crisp and bold, collectors will pay enormous sums. And another type of error is the repunched mint mark, or RPM, which happens when the small d min mark was punched into the die more than once in slightly different positions, resulting in overlapping ds that can be seen under magnification, and some 1953 D pennies exhibit dramatic RPMs that have become highly desirable among collectors, and beyond these there are even off-center strikes, where the coin design is not properly aligned with the blank planchet, resulting in part of the design being cut off while leaving a blank crescent-shaped area. And depending on how far off-center the strike is, the value can skyrocket, especially if the date is still fully visible. And then we have broad strikes where the collar that normally holds the coin in place fails, causing the metal to spread outwards, creating a larger than normal coin with distorted features. And then there are die cracks and cuts, which are raised lines or blobs of metal caused by breaks in the die itself, giving the coin a dramatic appearance that screams rarity. And when these types of errors are combined, such as a double die with a repunched mint mark or an off-center strike with a die crack, the uniqueness increases exponentially, making such coins essentially one of a kind. And it is precisely these one-of-a-kind specimens that can reach values like $1.1 million at auction, because collectors know they are not just buying a coin, but securing a piece of minting history that will never repeat itself. And when you consider how coins were minted in the 1950s with less advanced quality control compared to today, it is not surprising that mistakes like this slipped through, though the number of surviving examples is tiny, making them incredibly elusive. And let us also think about the context of 1953 itself, a time when millions of wheat pennies were being produced daily at the Denver Mint, and workers were under pressure to maintain high production levels, which sometimes led to overlooked errors. And even though most of these pennies were struck correctly and spent decades circulating in the economy, the few that carried errors ended up hiding in piggy banks, drawers, or pocket change until collectors decades later began to recognize their significance, and this recognition transformed what seemed like a common coin into a millionaire's treasure. And part of what makes the 1953 D wheat penny so exciting is that the errors are not uniform, meaning there are multiple variations to collect and study, from subtle doubling to dramatic RPMs, from small die chips to massive cracks, and from minor misalignments to extreme off-center strikes. And because each error coin is different, collectors compete fiercely to own the most dramatic and eye-catching examples, and this competition drives up the price, sometimes to unbelievable levels. And when a specimen with the right combination of rarity, error type, eye appeal, and condition comes to market, it can ignite bidding wars among wealthy collectors who see the coin not just as a collectible but as an investment. And auctions have proven time and again that rare mint error coins fetch astonishing sums. And while not every 1953 D penny will be worth a fortune, the few that are unique due to these mistakes can indeed reach into the millions, with one such penny recorded as achieving a value of $1.1 million. And what also enhances the value is the coin's grade, as professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC evaluate the condition of the coin under strict standards, assigning a grade from poor to mint state. And when an error coin, like a 1953 D with dramatic doubling or a bold repunched mint mark, also happens to be in mint state condition with full original luster, the desirability multiplies, and the rarity in high grade can be even more extreme, because most of these coins spent decades in circulation wearing down their details. So finding a pristine survivor is like striking gold, and this rarity is why collectors treasure them, and why their market value continues to rise. And another factor is historical significance, since the Wheat Penny series was nearing its end by the mid-1950s, with the reverse design changing to the Lincoln Memorial in 1959, which makes the later Wheat Pennies, like the 1953 D, part of the final chapters in a beloved numismatic story. And owning a rare error from this time is like holding a piece of history that bridges eras, and this emotional connection drives collectors to pursue these coins passionately. And as we dive deeper into possibilities, imagine finding a 1953 D penny struck on the wrong planchet, such as a silver dime blank, or a foreign coin planchet, which sometimes happen due to mix-ups at the mint, and these wrong planchet errors are among the most spectacular and valuable. And if a 1953 wheat penny were discovered struck on a different metal entirely, the uniqueness would guarantee a high six-figure or even million-dollar valuation. And similarly, there could be transitional errors, where a coin design intended for another year or denomination was mistakenly paired with the 1953 dies, and though extremely rare, such events have been documented in other years, proving that anything is possible, and the more unusual the error, the more desirable the coin becomes, and collectors, especially advanced ones, relish the chase of acquiring coins that push the boundaries of rarity, which is why the 1953 penny continues to be a legend in numismatics. And as you listen to this, think about how incredible it is that a simple 1-cent coin, something meant for everyday commerce, can become a million-dollar treasure just because of a few mistakes. And this reality makes coin collecting such an exciting hobby, because treasures can still be hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. And every time someone searches through rolls of wheat pennies, looks inside an old jar, or inherits a collection, there is always a chance that a rare error coin, like the 1953 with its incredible potential value, could be sitting there unnoticed. Last 1946 wheat penny. Today, as we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins, uncovering one of the most intriguing and valuable finds in American numismatics, the legendary 1946 wheat penny that has shocked collectors and enthusiasts alike by reaching an astounding value of $3 million, a price tag that seems unimaginable for a coin that originally cost just a cent. Yet the combination of rarity, minting errors, and historical intrigue have elevated this piece of copper into a treasure beyond imagination. And as we go through this incredible story together, we will explore the reasons, the possibilities, the mistakes, and the unique errors that have propelled this humble wheat penny into the stratosphere of value, captivating the imaginations of both seasoned collectors and curious newcomers, who cannot help but marvel at how such a small piece of metal could become a fortune. Because the journey of the 1946 wheat penny is not just about its face value or its age, but rather about the extraordinary conditions that make certain specimens stand out from the millions of others struck that year, beginning with the historical backdrop of post-World War II America, when the U.S. Mint was adjusting to peacetime production, shifting back from wartime alloys like steel cents of 1943 and re-establishing the traditional copper composition. Yet, as with many transitions in minting history, mistakes happened, dies were overused, planchets were mixed, and some coins ended up with dramatic errors that today are highly sought after. And among these anomalies, the 1946 wheat penny has emerged with a variety of unique error types, including doubled dies where the inscriptions like Liberty or the date appear doubled due to misalignment during hubbing, off-center strikes where the coin was not properly seated and parts of the design are missing or shifted, clipped planchets where pieces of the metal blank are cut off, and even wrong planchet errors where some were accidentally struck on leftover planchets intended for dimes or foreign coins, creating thin or undersized pennies that immediately stand out. But even more fascinating are the rumors and verified instances of transitional errors where the wrong alloy was used, and some 1946 pennies may have been struck using leftover experimental planchets, possibly steel or mixed metal, giving them a distinctive appearance, lighter weight, and unusual coloring that sets them apart from the standard bronze issues, and collectors have been known to pay astronomical amounts for such unique survivors, with some grading services confirming their authenticity, further fueling demand. Yet beyond the technical mistakes, the value of this coin also lies in its story, the fact that in the aftermath of war the mint was under pressure to produce billions of cents quickly, leading to hurried processes and overlooked mistakes. And these rare survivors now represent not just a monetary rarity, but a tangible link to a moment in history. And when a collector holds one of these coins, They are holding a piece of 1946 America, a reminder of rationing, rebuilding, and transition, making the 1946 penny not just a collectible but a historical artifact. And as we peel back more layers, we find that auction houses have seen fierce bidding wars for high-grade error examples, especially those graded mint state with full red luster still intact, since most circulated examples show heavy wear, scratches, and discoloration. Yet a pristine error coin with sharp details can set records, and it is precisely such a coin that reached the monumental $3 million sale price, astonishing everyone in the numismatic community and raising new interest in examining every old penny carefully, because hidden among pocket change and family coin jars could be a fortune disguised as a cent. And as collectors, we must consider the variety of possibilities that could create a $1 million 1946 penny, from a double die obverse where the date and motto show dramatic doubling visible to the naked eye, to a repunched mint mark where the S or D appears layered due to multiple strikes, to a broad strike error where the collar fails and the coin spreads out larger than normal, and each of these anomalies transforms a common penny into a rarity, with values escalating depending on severity, condition, and provenance. But beyond just the physical errors, the mythos of the 1946 penny has grown because so few perfect examples are known, making it a holy grail for wheat cent enthusiasts, much like the 1909 SVDB or the 1955 double die. And as stories of lucky finds circulate, from people discovering rare cents in change jars to estates yielding valuable surprises, the fascination only deepens, driving collectors to search relentlessly, fueling the dream that perhaps the next coin examined under magnification could be the one that changes a life. And in this way, the 1946 penny represents not just a collectible but a symbol of possibility, of how attention to detail and patience can be rewarded. And so when we examine the reasons behind the $3 million valuation, we see it as not one factor but the convergence of many: scarcity of high-grade survivors, spectacular errors that are visually dramatic, historical significance tied to post-war minting, and collector passion that drives competitive bidding. And this convergence creates a perfect storm where a small copper disc becomes a treasure chest. So as we continue exploring, imagine the sheer excitement of holding such a coin, turning it in the light, seeing the doubling or off-center strike with your own eyes, knowing that this tiny object has defied time, circumstance, and mass production to become a singular gem. And that is why experts stress the importance of learning to recognize error types, of checking coins carefully, of understanding the grading scale from good to mint state, and how luster, strike, and eye appeal influence value, because knowledge is the key that unlocks fortune in numismatics. And when people hear that a penny sold for $3 million, they realize that treasure hunts are not just in the movies, but in everyday pockets and drawers. And that possibility is what makes coin collecting endlessly engaging, because each coin carries a story, each date and mint mark combination a chance for rarity, each anomaly a potential miracle. And in the case of the 1946 wheat penny, that miracle has reached legendary status, inspiring generations of collectors. And as we wrap this journey together, remember that the value of such a coin is not only in its metal but in its uniqueness, its history, and the dreams it inspires. So whether you are an experienced numismatist or a curious newcomer, always look closely at your coins, because hidden in plain sight could be the next record-breaking treasure, just like the extraordinary $3,001,946 wheat penny that continues to captivate the world and remind us all that even the smallest things can carry unimaginable worth. And that is why this story is not just about a coin, but about discovery, passion, and the thrill of possibility that lies in the palm of your hand. And with that in mind, keep searching, keep learning, and keep believing that the next coin you find could be the one that changes everything. Because the legend of the 1946 penny shows us that incredible value often hides in the most unexpected places, waiting for someone with curiosity and determination to uncover it. And that is why today's exploration of this remarkable coin is not just a lesson in numismatics, but an invitation to join the ongoing adventure of discovery where history, rarity, and fortune meet in the smallest of forms. And as long as collectors continue to dream and search, the story of the 1946 Wheat Penny will live on, a beacon of fascination, mystery, and untold value.